Get ready to take a look behind the scenes and enter the impossible for the Between Two Minds podcast with our hosts, Judge Mentalist and Bernardo Rodriguez. Can they really tell you what you're thinking?
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Judge Mentalist, your favorite hypnotist here. We are streaming live pretty much everywhere except it looks like Instagram did not link up this time. So we'll make sure we cut some clips and put it out there. We've got something special here. This is somebody who I met for, I believe, the second time at the Michigan International Hypnosis Conference. And he gave we're gonna leave a lot of this talk for chatting with him. But have you ever felt like you're living in the Matrix, like the movie from the 90s, where everything around you is a bit kind of contrived and controlled, and that whether it be on social media or in this now emerging world where so much content is driven by things like AI, where you can almost see glitches in the Matrix in front of you on social media? I mean, no joke. A couple of weeks ago, I got a post in my Facebook feed, I think it was Facebook, that was talking about Post Malone, the musical performer, performing at the halftime of the Buffalo Bills Baltimore Ravens game at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. And this glitch in the Matrix, you may not follow football. The glitch in the Matrix was, and what made me know that this was clearly contrived and clearly AI generated, was the fact that that game was happening in Buffalo. There would not be a halftime show in Baltimore. I didn't need to click. I didn't need to go any further. All of this is being said to really kind of set the scene for this manufactured world that we live in, the stories that we are told from childhood and beyond. And I would like to bring my friend Jeff on here. We're going to talk about his past talk, a book that he recently wrote that you can get access to, I believe, for free, and really how we can help break out of these chains of this manufactured matrix that's around us. Jeff, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Judge. I'm really excited here. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to have my voice heard.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, please correct me if I went on some wild tangent there, that my lead up in here is kind of at least in the horseshoe pit of what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. That's what people are noticing. And there's a reason for all this. And I believe that we've all been hypnotized, conditioned to believe that we're not good enough. All right. So our instincts, all the things that we question our parents about, end up being slammed as you're not good enough. You're not seeing the right things. Here's the real truth. And that confusion that we have from all this stuff, our minds have to be twisted in order to believe the reality that's being presented to us and to fit in. And so we're hypnotized to mistrust our own inner guidance, our own intuition, and we are taught to suppress our imagination and our soul in order to gain acceptance in the community. In order to be good enough and worthy, we have to surrender our power to outside authority. So instead of trusting ourselves, we have to be told what to think and what to believe. And so we swap authenticity for approval, intuition for instruction. We swap love for performance, imagination for imitation, desire for duty, curiosity for compliance, joy for seriousness, and sensuality for shame. And that's the reason why the number one regret of the dying is living a life that others expected of you. So this whole thing, I believe, I've given it a name. As hypnotists, I've talked to a lot of hypnotists, and we joke about oh, we don't hypnotize anybody, we unhypnotize people. And I got thinking about that. Well, is that true? And our first 7, 8 years of our lives, we're in theta. The brainwave state is in theta, which is exactly the state that we want to go into for hypnosis in order to hypnotize people. So our first 7 years of our lives, we're in this trance. We have nothing to block the information that's coming in and decide that's true, that's not. We just all is true. And because we accept it all as true, once we get to that point where we're 7 or 8 years old and we start developing that critical faculty, that's when we start protecting all that information that we have inside of us. So if you've ever having a conversation with somebody online and you try to give it a different point of view, it doesn't work.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. And see, I was thinking about more simplistic things, like that first time that as a child that you realize that it's actually not illegal to turn the light on inside the car. That your parents always told you it was, turn that off, right? We've all been there.
Yeah.
But again, it illustrates that early conditioning that we're so accustomed to in ways that you have to sit and think about it to go back and be like, you know what? For lack of a better term, and pardon my French, that was some bullshit.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be, whether it be the all the stories that we're told and which turn into the stories that we tell ourselves.
Well, I have one that I use as a metaphor, and it gets a mixed reaction from people, but it's one that I use that everybody can relate to because we all go through this whole thing with Santa Claus.
Yes.
Right. And here's this mysterious guy that he's always watching us. He's judging us from the background to decide if we're good enough. And we are led to believe that this thing is true. And so if we start asking questions, our parents start telling us some fantasy stories about, oh yeah, he's a wizard and he flies on magic flue dust or something to come down your chimney. Whatever they say, it's all BS. But in order to believe that stuff, you've got to twist your mind, believe that your intuition that told you that Santa Claus couldn't come down the chimney, that part of you is unreliable. I can't trust that part of me. I have to suppress it because it's unreliable. The whole rest of the world tells me that what they're seeing is something completely different. So there's something wrong with me foundationally. Right. And so this new stuff, this critical thinking, we start to suppress it because it's causing too many troubles. And then what happens as well is that if we comply and we stop asking questions and we just believe like everybody else, we get accepted into the community and we get gifts and presents. We're showered with presents. And if you've seen in my nieces, they're 2 and 5 years old and they get showered with this stuff. They believe in Santa Claus. They get all this stuff.
And it's control and it's conditioning, because when those children are not acting the way that is desirable to their parents or families surrounding them in March or April, they're reminded of what's coming in December.
Yes. And if you behave, you'll get presents. And by the way, if you don't behave, you're the Grinch. And you know what happens to the Grinch, don't you? The Grinch is an outcast. He can't participate in society. There's no happiness. You can't sing with anybody or anything. You can't enjoy anything. So if you don't believe, you're the Grinch and you're out of here. And so that whole system that we do, if you were to do that to an adult, they would call that gaslighting.
Yeah.
When you do it like through a whole system, the whole world's doing it, it's called indoctrination. So that's what we do, is we indoctrinate our kids to believe in Santa Claus. And when they do that, they mistrust their inner guidance system, their own soul and their imagination, and they suppress that. So instead, I got to be told, what to believe. I said somebody commented on one of my videos about something, and he says, well, what certifications do you have that I should listen to you? So you need me to have some piece of paper to say you should listen.
And talk about what we're actually talking about here.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what we're really talking about, and what I really want to focus on here is about what's going on in the world today, because this is where people are having problems. I've seen a guy who he's looking at his news feed right now, and he's in the last week, he's seen a couple of people murdered right in his video feed. He didn't look for this stuff. He didn't seek it out. It was shown to him. He didn't know what to expect. He's traumatized. And he's like my age. What about kids seeing this stuff? So out in the world,
and these feeds on most social media platforms, the default is now the version of the feed that the quote algorithm wants to show you. Some of them will call it the For You page or whatever. You have to navigate off. Let's say you're one of those people that, and tons of respect if you are in this world, who you are very scrutinizing about who you follow or who you connect with, and you curate this tight kind of group of what you choose to see. That is not the default of what you're fed through most of these platforms, any of the major ones. It's the here, this is the one that we want to feed you, or we quote think or choose to give you primarily.
Yeah. And there's a certain amount of that to mix that stuff in that they want to feed to you. At the same time, they have to live up to your confirmation bias. See, all those first things that we ever adopted when we were kids, the first thing you hear about something, that becomes your truth, and you end up protecting it. It doesn't matter if it's a lie or a truth. And so your news feed feeds you all that stuff that plays into your confirmation bias, so that you can be right all the time and want to keep coming back. And then in the midst of all that, then they throw out this other stuff where they're programming you on top of that.
Now I want to throw out there, this just popped into my head. Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
And the information and the construct that you're fed first, right?
Yeah.
I want to take this out of any sort of combative perspective. All right. Because a lot of people might think that, oh, this is going to go down some trend of being political or otherwise. I'm going to take it completely out of there. What kind of music do you listen to?
I play in an AC/DC tribute band.
Okay. So what would you say is a popular song that was originally an AC/DC song, but somebody has made popular as a cover? Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head.
Or anybody in that genre, okay? If you think of a cover song, what's a famous cover song that you can think of? Any genre.
I'm drawing a blank here.
So if you think about that, all right, let's how about Cake? They did I Will Survive. Are you familiar with the band Cake?
Okay, yeah.
Or how about the Gloria Gaynor version of I Will Survive, which also is not their original?
Okay, yeah.
Have you heard both of those songs?
I've heard both those songs, yes.
Which do you think is better?
I was going to say the original one.
The true answer to that question, whatever your verbal response is irrelevant. It's whichever one you heard first.
Whichever one I heard first, yeah.
Whichever one you heard first. So if you go and anybody that's watching this, just go through this in your mind. Think of a cover song and then think of the original. I guarantee you, your favorite, the one that you think of is the best, is not objective. It is all based on which one you listen to first.
Yeah.
And and again, I'm trying to take this out of anything that might be seen as you trying to reframe and push people down a path. I'm not trying to, the box within the box within the box where we're going here, and just say, look, this is a completely innocent way to look at this. Because if you think of cover songs and you really think about, again, any two cover in the original or in the Gloria Gaynor is the terrible example because it's also not the original. your thought will be almost universally driven to the one that you heard first.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Metallica, the Four Horsemen, a
Yeah.
Megadeth.
So yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing. And the answer to the question of which one that you think is the best isn't going to be based on anything other than which one that you were exposed to and heard first.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I used to be a truther, and I used to try to spread information to get other people to understand and see things, see the truth, what I thought was the truth. And what I learned was that in doing that, anybody who saw that, who didn't believe it already, actually would go out of their way to double down on what they already believed and say, I'm wrong. And that's because we've got all these different mechanisms. We're actually hardwired to resist change. So we have the backfire effect. We have the framing effect. So how you package your information makes a big difference as to whether or not people receive it. Reactance, the rebel. I'm still not sure if I have long hair because I want it or because my parents didn't want me to. I don't know, right?
Right.
We've got confirmation bias. So we're always protecting everything we already know. There's the status quo bias. And then projection is a big one, right? So here's all these things that are hardwired into us that we can't change other people's minds. The more you try to force them to change, the more they resist to it and dig into their original position. So being a truther.
And the example that you gave earlier about getting into some sort of an argument with somebody on the internet, you don't have to focus on sides to say that is a losing battle for all of the reasons that you were describing here already. It's not, hey, you can't change somebody that thinks this, or you can't change somebody that thinks that, those two things being the opposite. Both are true. You can't change any of those, because if that person is willing to go to bat and initiate the argument that their version is right, they're invested in it.
And this whole thing, I already decided that I wasn't going to talk about anything specific. There's a lot of stuff out there that's going on that's causing trauma for people.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what people need help with is the trauma. So without talking about the events that are going on, we can talk about the trauma that's happening from that. And how do people get beyond that, right? Trying to be right and trying to force other people to see your side of things. It's never worked. It's never going to work. And you're fighting a losing battle doing that stuff. And that's why I gave up being the truther and trying to, explain things to people. I don't take sides anymore. I see myself as elevating above that. I chunk above that, and I watch the play that's going on. I watch it as if it's a play to see what's happening, and it almost looks like psychological warfare out there. And it might not be on purpose. It might just be that people jump on the bandwagon because everybody wants to find out about this stuff. If I talk about that and I say these kind of things, everybody's going to watch me and I'm going to go viral. And so they might not know what they're doing, that they're creating this very situation that they're complaining about, but they're doing it, right? Because they want everybody to get on side with them. Because we feel better if everybody else agrees with us. This whole thing about outside validation. We need the rest of the world to agree with us. Otherwise, I twisted my mind to understand all this stuff. Why don't you too? And
so let's chat a little bit about the work. What's the next step? How do we help folks overcome this and break these chains and be, dare I say, truly independent?
Well, the first thing is understanding the program that's going on, understanding that, hey, we are programmed and we got to do something about it. If you don't come to the point where you decide, you know what, things aren't working. My model of reality is creating this crappy reality that we have. I got to change some stuff here so that I start seeing a different world. I start manifesting a different world for myself. And so by understanding that we have a problem, we've got to make changes, then we can start actually making changes. That's the step number one. And so I've got this whole process, and I got 4 stages. And the first one is the installation of the outside-in operating system, how it gets installed in there. And the Santa Claus thing, that's one of the ways. Religion is another thing that we do that way. Words like don't and can't and shouldn't. When you're talking to your kid, don't think about a pink elephant.
Yeah.
Where is it? And you have the same reaction everybody did, because it automatically pops in your head. That
It's
doesn't.
almost like I'm going to go pick up a bottle of delirium tremens tonight because it's got a pink elephant on it. Like I didn't just think of a pink elephant. I thought of where I could go find one in the wild, so to speak.
Yeah, there you go. So the subconscious does not understand these don'ts. And when you're a little kid, there's no hope for them because they don't have the critical faculty. They don't understand don't. And so when you're telling your kids, don't do this, don't do that, what you're doing is you're telling them, do that. All they focus on is that one part where you said what they should or shouldn't do, and they took it as they should do that. I was at a grocery store, and I was following behind a family, and it was the mom with her cart, the little girl with her junior shopping cart, and her dad. And the dad says, don't run into your mom. And it was like 2 seconds later, she rams into her mom. And so I said to the guy, I said, you understand that kids don't register that don't. So when you say don't do something, you're telling her to do it. And he gets all laughing and he's chatting with me like, yeah, that's been my experience. That's what it looks like. And then he turned to her and he said, don't do that again. So even with the realization, he still continues to use it. Hey, it worked for me, so it works for them. And what that does, that's another thing where you're a kid, you're understanding your parents, you're doing and complying to what they're telling you to do, and you're getting in trouble for it. And you don't understand because this disconnection between this don't. And so since you don't understand that, that means you understand it, right? So that don't doesn't register the way that we think it does, and it causes confusion in the kid, and the kid's left thinking there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Especially when you get spanked and yelled at and stuff all the time, then it really becomes, I just can't do anything right. And as we grow up, all this stuff, even our words, right? When I say, I sold my soul to Santa. Right? That's when I decided I want to fit in with everybody. I want to be part of the system. I got to mistrust all this. And I suppressed my soul. I say I sold my soul to Santa. And since I sold my soul to Santa, then I gave up my presence for presence.
Yeah.
Right. And what we try to do with people when we want to find peace, what is peace? A peace is a part of something, isn't it? But when you're talking peace as in world peace, that's wholeness where everybody comes together. So why is there another word, peace, which means a fragment, which is the first one we learn? Right? And
yeah.
What about wholeness, right? A whole is empty. So you want wholeness. And so you're thinking about emptiness when you think of wholeness, when it's actually fulfilled is what you want. And so even our languages, it confuses us. And I don't know if it's done on purpose or if it's just, they put it this way and whatever, right? Like, and the stuff about don't, I mean, the experts know it.
Yeah.
It rarely makes it into the how to raise your child books. Oh, and that brings us to dog owners. When you're yelling at your dog, don't do this, don't jump up on the couch. And dogs don't know what don't is. In fact, they don't really know the words. You said couch. And they jump up on the couch, and that's why.
And you probably gestured toward it.
Yes. Then you're mad.
And now they're watching what you're doing, and they're hearing Charlie Brown's teacher, and they can understand you as well as you can understand Charlie Brown's teacher, and you're gesturing at the couch, and they jump up.
Yeah. My neighbor comes out and she starts yelling at her dog to stop barking all the time. They think she's barking with them. She's validating their barking. That's why they never learn. It's because she hasn't learned yet.
I'm
And if
gonna feel so seen when I get home tonight and my dogs start barking.
you start yelling at
I
them,
mean,
and
I'm feeling it now. So when I get in that moment, and then I will immediately flash back to this conversation, the first time that I screw this up, because I know
yeah,
it's gonna happen,
yeah,
and I really need to tell myself that it's not going to happen, and visualize,
visualize what
walking
you want instead. That's what they
right.
tell you when you're with a dog trainer. They say, go with the positive, tell them what you want. If you want them to do something, if you want them to walk, say walk. Don't say don't walk. So just focus on what you want. Same with your kids, and same with anybody you're talking to. Focus on the positive of what you want, and you'll get better results in your life.
This is a new light on the understanding that when you take your dog for training, that it's actually you that are being trained.
You betcha. And we should have kid training too for this too, but we don't. We should.
Yes. Yeah. Well, listen, licensing people to be parents and everything that would go with that is a totally different conversation for a totally different day.
Yeah. Yeah. And my book gets into more detail about all this stuff.
This is good.
But
This is good. Here's a great example that you can take home tonight. Use 2 hands to hold the milk. You're going to get a much better result than thinking, don't spill this milk. Thank you, Amanda.
That's
Perfect illustration. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, and that this is how it gets installed in the first place. And so what we end up doing, stage 2 is fragmentation, I call it. And that is where you start separating the different parts of you, your ego, the shadow self, and all these other parts. And if you really get into ego state theory, they say that we have somewhere around 200 different personalities. So if you imagine that you're in a house, you're in a house, and on the main floor, there's like 25 people on that main floor. There's one chair in the middle, right? And each one of these people is a different state that you've created to protect yourself. So one of these states might be the one of you that does the dishes. Another one might be the one that hangs out with your wife. Another one might be the version of you that hangs out with your mom, because you don't act the same way with both of those, do you?
For
Right?
sure.
You meter yourself and you act a certain way with each of these people. And so we have about 200 of these personalities, and some of them you bring out at will because you're going to go and do something. So the version of you that speaks, you want to get yourself psyched up and get into this mode, right? But you don't want that version of you when you're doing the dishes or watching TV. So all these different versions of ourselves, only one of them can sit in that chair at a time. So that's a command center. And day to day, you have 25 different personalities. Up in the attic, maybe up to another 100, and in the basement, another 100 as well. So, there's that one that protects you from, for me, it's Uncle Ted, right? When he's there, I act a certain way in order to protect myself from him, right? I know that I got to be that. And so that version jumps into this chair and it protects me. And some of these versions are triggered, right? And so what we end up doing in our relationships is that relationship that we had with our parents, since we're looking for that love and approval and everything from our parents, and we can't get it from them because it's actually already inside of us. And so we can't get it from outside. And so that unfinished business that we had with our parents, we tend to marry a partner who is just like that parent. And then we set out to convince them to love us. For the first 90 days, everything comes back, and their weaknesses, the things that we don't like, we love and worship those parts of them for the first 90 days, and we come together and they complete us. But after 90 days, that stuff starts irritating you again. And so you start to suppress that part in them the same way you did to yourself.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing to you. And so you end up in this situation where you're trying to fix each other all the time. A typical relationship. And when we get into relationships, things happen like The greatest example comes from the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And he gives the example where you come home, the wife comes home from work and she's pissed at Mary. She did something at work. And so you're listening and you start telling your wife, oh yeah, you should do this and you should do that. Just ignore her. She doesn't know what she talked about, and doing stuff like that, right? We're problem solving. We're helping her solve her problem. But for the wife, all she wanted was to be heard. And our problem solving is telling her that we're invalidating her, right? Your concerns are invalid. Just do this instead. And so we end up in a fight with her because we invalidated her. And then we're thinking, well, we helped her solve a problem. She should be thankful. And so
that wasn't the mission.
No. The mission was to shut up and listen.
Right.
The conversation would have been done in 5 minutes if she just wanted to be heard.
It's also less work, guys.
Yes, way less work.
Just listen.
And you don't have to get involved in it either, right? Yeah. Just nod. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're right. She is a bitch. Yes. Yes. And this is
like 2 or 3 of the last words that she said, repeat them back, nod again, keep going.
Yeah. And your relationship would be so much better just doing that. Right. But we don't know to do that. We think that we're helping. And so all this stuff goes on. We have these different love languages, and then we think we're not lovable because we got this person who has a different love language than us. Right? Maybe you need to be touched and she needs to be heard. And so you keep touching her and you don't say the right things. Right? And she keeps telling you she loves you, but you don't feel loved because she hasn't touched you in that way that you like to be touched. And so we've got these.
She tells you don't help, and you only hear help. So the cycle repeats. We're right back to where we started.
Over and over and over again through the rest of our lives until we finally figure it out. And I'll tell you, some people come and they're in their 80s and they want to get this straightened out. So it's never too late. You know, because the time that you got left is the time that you got left if you want the most out of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the number one regret of the dying is living a life that other people expected. If you figure that out and all of a sudden you start living that life, at least you got that time. At least you got that time. Okay, so that's, I mean, there's more detail to it than that stage 2. And then stage 3 gets into the shadow. This is where everything starts breaking down. This is the awakening part. And this is what's going on in the world right now. They say that we're having a mental health crisis. And well, yeah, there's some mental health issues going on. That's not the problem. That's a result of the problem. And so the real problem is that we're going through a spiritual awakening right now. People are starting to see the holes. They're starting to see through the matrix. And then they're blaming everybody else. So it's when you don't face your true self, what you get into is a shadow war. And there's this thing called projection. And in hypnosis, we're taught all perception is a projection. And Carl Jung, he's one of the guys that made projection famous. And those parts of ourselves that we can't accept, we tend to project them onto other people. And so right now, what we got going on in society is a projection war. And all the things that people don't like about themselves, they're saying it's them over there. We need to fix those people and stop them from being like that. Meanwhile, they're doing exactly the same behavior that they're saying that those other people are doing in telling you this. And people seem hypocritical out there, don't they? And you see them, everybody's doing this and everybody's doing that. And really what's coming down to is that when you say the other side is intolerant and that they shouldn't be allowed to be like that, you're being intolerant.
Right.
And both sides are doing the same thing. So I'm not going to.
We've been intentionally non-specific throughout.
Yes, because it's not about that, right? But both sides are doing the same thing. That's the important thing here, is that this is a shadow war. And in order to understand it, what spirit is trying to do, our spirit, our own subconscious, it keeps bringing this stuff up. It brings up our unresolved emotions and it throws it into our face. And my best story to explain this is my relationship with my dad. I grew up in a family business, and my dad was one of those driver type of people He could never tell me I was good enough because he thought if he told somebody they were good enough, they would quit trying. And so he was always pushing. He coached hockey. And so he was a yeller too. And of course, in the company, I would be the flying monkey that would go around and, he'd yell at somebody and I would go and smooth things over with him all the time. So that was one of my roles. And when I left the company, I had to go no contact, do some inner work and all that kind of stuff. But then I started re-engaging, and then we'd get into a big fight, and it would take me like a month to recover from that. And I started doing what's called shadow work and looking at it and thinking, well, how is that me? What I realized is that exact behavior that I hated from my dad, that was me. He was mirroring my own behavior back at me.
Mm.
I was pushing his buttons. And once and this is what psychology taught me, he was being a narcissist. And that's when I realized I was also being a narcissist. I took my training from my dad and learned how to do this. And when I dealt with that, accepted that part of me, and I resolved the emotions that I had that were behind it, then what I was able to do was engage with my dad, and we wouldn't have fights anymore. So my whole life, I tried to change my dad. I even took NLP and hypnosis to learn how to better change my dad, which never worked. When I finally went in and changed me, my dad changed. He became a nice guy. The guy who told me twice through my life that he loved me, one time because my mom forced him to, I can get him to say it all the time now. Yeah, and it doesn't really take any effort other than doing my own inner work. And me doing my inner work, my whole relationship with him changed. Now I don't see that out there anymore. I had friends. I surrounded myself, because this is the way that we do it. After I left the company, right? This is dissociating with him, cutting him off. And that's the danger. You talked earlier about people in social media who only listen to certain people. They don't let those other people in. The danger of that is that you don't get to see your shadow.
Right.
Ignore your shadow, because the thing that bothers you the most about other people is the thing that you need to work on. You may be 100% exactly like that, or you could be suppressing that so much. Let's say it's OCD, right? So you're somebody is a slob, and in order to make up for that, you become OCD on the other end of the scale. Right. So this is the way we compensate for that. And then every time you see somebody leave something out and not clean it up, you're mad at them for not complying and being OCD like you. Right. Because now you think that's the way everybody should be, is this OCD. And that's what we see in society, is everybody saying, you know what, you guys should be OCD like me, and we should be forced it. We got to get the government to change the rules so that you're all OCD just like me. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Without getting into any specific topics, that's exactly what we're doing metaphorically. And so, people are, oh, they're fascists over there. But then the solution to that is to be a fascist. It doesn't work, right? Both sides are doing the same thing. Two wings of the same bird. And this is what we need to do, is we need to, instead of pointing out there and saying it's them, say, okay, wait a minute, how's that behavior me? And when you do that deep dive into your own self, and you start realizing that, holy crap, I've been just like that. And once you do that inner work for yourself, because you got unresolved trauma, that's what it's all about. That's what we help people with, is we help them to resolve that trauma. And then when you do that, all of a sudden that thing disappears. You quit attracting that kind of behavior out of other people. All those narcissists that surrounded me, they either quit behaving that way, quit treating me that way, or they completely left my life. I don't see it anymore. I see other people pointing it out still, and I can recognize narcissism when I see it and understand where it's coming from. When you get into this and you understand all perception is a projection, then you see when other people are saying, they are telling you their shadow. So it's almost like you're reading their mind. They don't even know this stuff about themselves, and they're telling you all about how they think and what's inside of them. You know, I thought I was an empath, but the current psychology is saying, you know what? It's not an if, either or. It's on a spectrum. So we're all narcissistic in our own ways and to a certain degree. We're all empathic in certain ways and to a certain degree. And if you roll in the old ego state therapy stuff, well, some of these ego states are totally narcissistic and some of them are completely empathic. And the weird thing is that when you're in fear or hate, when you get into that side of your system, you shut down your empathy. So if you're angry and telling people you're an empath, you shut off your empathy right there. You have to get back into your soul. You have to be in alignment with your soul to have compassion and understanding. When you're in fear, your fear blocks that off. And so the secret comes to getting back into alignment with your own soul. And that's, of course, stage 4 is the awakening. This is where you actually return to your soul. When you return to your soul, then you start to see things in a completely different way. You start to live life to your own purpose. You start living the life that you were meant to live, and you step into your own power. Tony Robbins had that course. What was it? Unlimited Power, right? And everybody talks about knowing that there's more potential inside of you, but how do I get that potential? Well, it's your soul. You align with your soul and you've got it all. You know, that confidence, everything that you're looking for, it's in alignment with your soul. And all you have to do is accept it. And I'll tell you, there's some people, when I talk about the soul, they say, we don't have a soul. Well, maybe you don't, but I do. And that's what people think. You know,
so yeah, for everybody that's out there that you feel like, because this is what I'm picking up from what you're putting down here. Okay, you feel like you are trapped in one of those fun houses filled with mirrors.
Yep.
Realize that you need to become who you want to see in order to find the path and get out of that being trapped.
Yeah. Although that house of mirrors,
put that out there, it's going to become a lot more clear.
Yes. Once you bring all those fragments together and you say, oh, this is all me. And you deal with all those things that are causing these fragments to appear. Once you deal with that, then it's just the one version of you. When you know who you are, you can see who other people are. Until you know who you are, you can only see yourself and other people.
Fantastic. So all right, we're gonna approach this in 2 different segments, I guess, here. Number 1, you're doing similar talks where you dig into this a couple times in the next couple months here.
Yes.
So these are geared more toward hypnotists and healers and others who may want to explore this as an option for those that they work with.
Yes, it's a framework, an understanding.
Okay. Where can people find you, connect with you to further that and make that something that they can start working with?
Well, the book is outsideintheory.com. That's where you can download the book. And in that, it also creates a framework for getting through this, right? So instead of talking I have my own Hypnotic Awakening. Hypnoticawakening.com is where you can find that. And it's really about resolving those emotions and stuff, and about the techniques and stuff. And if you want to insert your own techniques into the framework, that's okay. Or use the same strategies that I use, because I use the best ones, of course.
You're also going to be live at the upcoming Canadian Hypnotherapy Conference.
Yes,
in October.
Yeah, that's in October the 25th and 26th. And then we have the Hypnosis Education Association, and that's November 8th and 9th. And that one actually
that's virtual, right?
That's a virtual one. And when I was talking to Sean about my theory, it's the outside in theory, and I call it the outside in human development model, right? So it goes from the beginning of how we were conditioned to how we get out of it, how we return to be ourselves. And in the book, you can find out more about those details. Sounds like I ran out of time before we could get into that, but the most important part, I'm actually going to now the return to yourself is really about taking care of yourself, doing the inner work. Since you said we have time here, when we do the inner work, you can use different strategies. And what I use is, first of all, you got to break the trance. And so I use reframes, kind of like we did in NLP training, to help people loosen up their model of the world. So I talk cause and effect. I talk about how our stress response works and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And when you see these things, it's like they're not meant to be truths. They're frames, like glasses. They're new glasses so that you can see things from a new perspective. And when you see things from a new perspective, you can figure things out for yourself. So the reframing starts it out, and it provides those cracks in your armor so that you can see a little bit more, the possibilities, and build your curiosity. And then when we get into the hypnosis part, we get into an emotional detox. I call mine the mental and emotional purge, which is based off of Carl Smith's emotional detox. At least that's where I learned it from. He probably learned it from somebody else.
Right.
Again, with the original music and all that stuff. And I noticed that there were some things missing from it. So I added some stuff to it. He just did negative emotions. I add limiting beliefs to it. I add cord cutting, because we didn't do that with his stuff. And then grief. Grief isn't something you can just let go that way. Grief is the acceptance of your situation, or the acceptance that what you lost is gone. And so the mental and emotional purge helps to clear out all that crap that you have inside of you already that is preventing you from finding your light. And so the next step after that is to actually take the journey into your light. And that's where I just ask your subconscious to take you into your light. And then I sit there and wait until the big smile comes across your face and you start beaming because you found that love. And some people start crying and stuff. They've been searching for this for their whole lives, trying to get it from somebody else. And they never realized how easy it was to find it. It's like right there, boom, I'm in it. Where's this been my whole life? All right. And so that's where they get to find out they are a being of love and light. That's their core, is love. And when they suppress that love, and then they're trying to get that love from outside, right? That's why it doesn't work. Some people believe there's a twin flame out there, one person out of 8 billion that can possibly love them. How insane is that, eh? Just one person. No, everybody loves me. No.
Quite the challenge. All right. So anybody looking for this type of help, this type of guidance, is outsideintheory.com a great place for them to start as well?
Yeah, that's the book. And the book will send you off to my website, thehypnoticawakening.com, or of course, jeffbroomfield.com is my main site for booking a strategy session. And we can talk about whether or not hypnosis is right for you. Beautiful.
Wonderful. There is so much to unpack here.
Oh yeah.
It is. If you don't believe where we are so far, number one, we're 49 minutes in, so why are you still watching? But but I then challenge you to go back and rewatch this, and I'm gonna see if I can use the language here. Tell me you don't see what's going on here in the everyday world.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so much just right there. And again, we didn't have to talk specifics at all.
Right. No, not at all.
This is happening everywhere, in every context, all day, every day.
Yeah. And when people are looking at this out in society, it's easier to see it on the other side. See that they're doing it.
And I don't normally do this, But because I understand what we're talking about and a system that's designed to really subdue this type of thinking. I mean, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, it's all about putting down those people trying to break out.
Yep.
You need to take this video, you need to share this video, because it's not going to, once the algorithm figures out what we're talking about here, it's not going to be organically out there the way that most things are. It's going to be repressed. You need to share it. Again, if you watch any of my other videos, you will find that I don't normally push that, but I think with this one, it's a little bit important, because we're going to end up in some black hole for this content that isn't deserved.
Yeah, and the thing is that we're headed towards civil war. That is, the indicators would seem that people are going to fight on the streets pretty soon. They already started. And if people don't understand this stuff, the more people that understand this, they'll step back out of the matrix and go, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not going to give that any more energy. And so it's important for people to know this so that we can break out of this matrix and we can save ourselves. World peace is not something you do to other people. World peace is an inside job, and it begins with you.
Fantastic. Well, I've taken a lot of your time. I appreciate you sharing all of this with everybody watching. This is some really deep and some really heavy stuff. Connect with Jeff. Feel free to connect with me. Let's share this. Let's keep this conversation going. Find Jeff at either the Canadian Hypnotherapy Conference, I think I got the name of that right, or at it's HEA, correct?
Yeah. Hypnosis Education Association. Yeah,
there we go.
One. Yeah.
Both of those are upcoming. The Canadian one is in person. That's in Toronto. The other one is online. So it doesn't matter where you are. You should be able to access that. I will get links for those as well from you. I'll throw them. If you're seeing this on YouTube, I'll make sure that those are in the comments or the description, as well as links to the book, which I think I may have already put there. So I'll double check that at the end. Again, thank you so much for spending time with me and with everybody out there that's watching and listening. Remember that change that you want to see, it's got to start here. It's got to start with you.
It all starts within. Yeah.
And Jeff can help you with that if you can't get there on your own, but start with that book and work from there.
Awesome. Thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and let me,
of course,
let me share my ideas with the world here.
Look, there was a vibe and a resonation here, and this is not a dig on anybody else that I've had on here, but most of these don't go this long, and not because I cut the others off, but there was no cutting this one off because we were really getting into it here. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm sure our paths will cross again real soon.
They will. And thanks for watching too.
All right. Be well, everyone. Be safe out there.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Between Two Minds Behind the Scenes podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media under Between Two Minds with the number 2 instead of TWO, or under Enter the Impossible. Thank you, and we hope to see you back for the next episode.